What's up, guys? How you guys doing today? And welcome back to another YouTube video on my YouTube channel. In today's video, it's that time of year again to predict the 2024 March Madness Bracket Tournament. It's a bracket challenge league. This is our third year of doing this bracket challenge league. I will do this every year. Let's have a good time. And before I do my brackets, I just want to address one thing. I am not a basketball person at all. The only things that I watch when it comes to basketball is the 3-point contest in the NBA playoffs for the NBA. College basketball only March Madness. That's literally it. So I don't know what's up with the teams. I know a few stories about a few March Madness teams, so just bear with me. Don't at me at all. So before I do my bracket, as you guys, please hit the subscribe button if you're new. Turn on post notifications so you won't miss any future content. Lots of videos will be coming in your way. And let's start off the East of round 64. Okay. UConn versus Stetson. I mean, Stetson just barely made the March Madness. I think UConn would clean this up on this round. FIU for Atlantic versus Northwestern. FAU had a good year as of what I'm hearing. I have friends who were from Florida who follow FAU, so I'm going to go with Florida Atlantic with the win. San Diego State UAB. I think I had San Diego State in Sweet 16 last year. I don't know, but one of them, I think I did. I'm gonna link to the my past bracket challenge leagues in the description. I think we're gonna see an upset with UAB. UAB over San Diego. Auburn versus Yale. Auburn had a good year. Yale respectable. I think Auburn will get the job done. BYU versus Duquesne. Duquesne, what a year. I think they're going to pull off an upset over BYU. Illinois versus Morehead State. I mean, Illinois, underrated basketball program for college. That's all I can say. Washington State versus Drake. Kind of like get into the wire of things. Like anything can happen with the 7 and 10. I got Drake beating Washington State. Iowa State versus South Dakota State. I think Iowa would simply beat the 15 seed South Dakota. Going down, North Carolina versus I'm gonna assume Howard. I think North Carolina is simply gonna dominate whoever. Mississippi versus Michigan. I think Mississippi State has got this one. St. Mary's versus Grand Canyon. Now, I don't know any of those programs. I'm just going to go with St. Mary's. Alabama versus Charleston. I'm simply going to go with Alabama too. Clemson, New Mexico. Clemson, first off, they're a good football program. Clemson is a bit mid. I'm going to go with New Mexico beating Clemson. Baylor and Colgate. Baylor, good sports program. They have a good basketball program. I got Baylor in that one. Dayton versus Nevada. I mean, kind of like the same thing from the whoever was the 7th and 10th seed. I think Nevada with the 10th seed. Arizona versus Long Beach. I got Arizona winning that round. Going up top to the south, Houston versus Longwood. I mean, Houston. Longwood, kind of like the same thing with Stetson. They barely made it in the region. Nebraska and Texas A&M. This is a tough one. I think I got. You know what? I'm gonna go with Nebraska. I think Nebraska would stun Texas A&M. I think this is going to go to overtime. Wisconsin and James Madison. James Madison had a heck of a year. Wisconsin being Wisconsin. I think I'm going to be crazy. James Madison with the upset over Wisconsin, kind of like UAB and San Diego. Duke versus Vermont, hands down Duke. Texas Tech and NC State. So I remember that I put NC State in one of the Final Four. I think NC State will beat Texas Tech. Kentucky versus Oakland. I got Kentucky on this one. Great basketball program. Florida versus Boise or Colorado. Simply Florida. Florida is so good in basketball. Marquette versus Western Kentucky. Marquette. Midwest. Purdue versus, I don't know. Purdue. Utah State versus TCU. I got TCU. Gonzaga versus McNeese. Gonzaga has experience with the March Madness tournament, so they'll easily be McNeese. Kansas versus Sanford, kind of like quite similar to Gonzaga. Kansas has experience. Kansas with the win. South Carolina versus Oregon. Now this is going to be a good matchup. I think South Carolina would get the job done. Creighton, Akron. Creighton. Texas versus, I assume it's Virginia. I got Texas on this one. Tennessee versus St. Peter's. I've heard some good things about St. Peter's, but I think with like Tennessee, they know how to just get the job done this one. Round 32. Round of 32, I should say. We got UConn versus FAU. 1 versus 8. I think UConn has got it. Will go to the Sweet 16 against UAB or Auburn. I got Auburn. Duquesne or Illinois. I think Duquesne is going to stun everyone to go to the Sweet 16. And we got Drake in Iowa State. I got Iowa State. North Carolina versus Mississippi State. This is a good matchup for round of 32. I got North Carolina on that one. St. Mary's versus Alabama. Tight 4-5 matchup. Want to check the preview on this one. St. Mary's. Alabama. Okay. I'm gonna go with Alabama on this one. New Mexico versus Baylor. Baylor is just gonna keep balling. Nevada and Arizona. All right. Up to the top, we got Houston and Nebraska. Like I said, a good matchup, kind of like UConn and FAU. Now I got Houston going to the Sweet 16 with James Madison and Duke. With the upset that James Madison will pull up to Wisconsin, I think Duke will catch them in their heels trying to go to the Sweet 16 mark with Duke beating JMU. NC State versus Kentucky. I think I had them in the Sweet 16 round last year. I think Kentucky will keep on going. Florida and Marquette. Florida will upset Marquette. And Purdue versus TCU. I don't think we're going to see an upset. Maybe. Here's what I think. If TCU beats Purdue, they would have to test a match with Gonzaga and Kansas, which I think it will be a fair match. I think TCU would upset Purdue. I think they got it. Gonzaga and Kansas. This is going to be a close game. I think Kansas will beat Gonzaga. I see this one going to overtime. South Carolina, Creighton, kind of like quite similar to Gonzaga and Kansas. South Carolina is the 6th seed. Creighton is the 3rd seed. I got South Carolina upsetting Creighton. Texas and Tennessee, known for many college football games with Texas and Tennessee. The Vols, I don't think so. Texas will beat Tennessee. So now, Sweet 16. Who's going to the Final Four? Or the 8th round. UConn versus Auburn. UConn will keep going. They will beat Auburn. Duquesne, Iowa State. Duquesne, I think they're gonna go like what they the Oral Roberts a few years ago. I think Duquesne will upset Iowa State. North Carolina versus Alabama. I think Alabama will upset North Carolina. Baylor versus Arizona. Baylor for the win. Houston versus Duke. Duke, a success basketball program versus the number 1 seed Houston. I got Duke going to the 8th seed, going to the 8th round. Kentucky versus Florida. This is going to be a tough one. Kentucky, I think, will get caught in their traps with Florida. Florida going to face Duke in the Final Four. Is that right? Yeah. TCU, Kansas. I got Kansas beating TCU. South Carolina versus Texas. Texas with a heck of a run, beating Tennessee. I think South Carolina will beat Texas. So now, who's going to the Final Four? UConn or Duquesne? I think Duquesne had a good run, but I think UConn will go to the Final Four. Duke, Florida. Yeah, I'm going to get back to that. Alabama versus Baylor. I'm going to go with Baylor on this one. Kansas, South Carolina. I think Kansas will upset Kansas. So now we'll see Duke versus Florida. Who's going to take South Carolina? And from what I'm seeing, I think Florida will stop Duke. And now here's my Final Four. UConn versus Baylor or Florida versus South Carolina. For the Final Four, I got UConn, continue the ball, and Florida for the final. So we're going to see a UConn and Florida predictions. UConn, Florida in the national championship. And my March Madness champion is Florida. I got Florida beating UConn. I've seen a lot of submissions of UConn. I think Florida is going to get the job done. Call me nuts. Hey, listen, I do not follow college basketball a lot. I'm just going by stories. That's what I am. So yeah, that's all I've got. Got Florida upsetting UConn in the national championship. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoy. If you do, please hit the like button. That man greatly appreciates a lot to me. That's making me do more videos in the future. Let me know, who you got going to the Final Four or National Championship, or who you got winning it all. Let me know down in the comments. I would like to know. Follow my social media, the links will be in the description below. And with that being said, guys, I'll see you guys on my next YouTube video. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you for watching.